Good morning. The first item of business is general questions. At question number 1, I call Kevin Stewart.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what discussions it has had with the UK Government about the impact of its Energy Profits Levy on business confidence, investment and jobs in Scotland.
Cabinet Secretary Gillian Martin.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I have had multiple discussions with my UK Government counterparts on this issue, and I have also written to the Minister directly on it. The Energy Profits Levy was always supposed to be a temporary measure introduced by the Conservative Government. We must see the earliest possible end date or complete reform of it, as it is now, affecting investment and jobs in the North East, including in the low-carbon energy sector and the energy supply chain. The fiscal regime for offshore oil and gas is reserved to the UK Government, but I will continue to raise concerns with the UK Government and call upon it to bring forward at the budget a stable and long-term fiscal regime to replace the EPL and deliver business and investor certainty for the North Sea.
Kevin Stewart.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and thank the Cabinet Secretary for her answer. Data from OE UK and Scottish Renewables shows that £40 billion of investment could be unlocked if the Energy Profits Levy is replaced. This would deliver £137 billion of GVA to the UK economy and safeguard some 160,000 jobs, and building on the 47,000 jobs and £15.5 billion output already supported by Scotland's renewable energy industry and the supply chain. Can I ask the Cabinet Secretary what the Scottish Government is continuing to do to persuade the UK Government to abolish the Energy Profits Levy in their forthcoming budget and replace it with a successor regime which has a focus on protecting and growing energy jobs?
Cabinet Secretary.
I thank Kevin Stewart for that question. The data that he cites is from a range of industry bodies, and it emphasised what I've said in response to the previous question. The offshore energy sector must be treated fairly alongside other parts of the UK economy in order to both unlock investment and ensure that workers are the heart of a just transition by protecting their jobs for as long as possible. That's why we'll continue to call on the UK Government to bring forward at the budget a stable and long-term fiscal regime that will replace the EPL and deliver much-needed business and investor certainty for the North Sea.
Brief supplementary, Douglas Lumsden.
Presiding Officer, the EPL is destroying the oil and gas industry, but so is the SNP's presumption against oil and gas, something that the former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon was celebrating again last night. So does the Cabinet Secretary not recognise that while the SNP has a presumption against oil and gas, and while the SNP won't support Rosebank or Campbell, that she has a brass neck coming here pretending to support the industry?
Cabinet Secretary.
Presiding Officer, our view is that climate compatibility assessments and checkpoints should form any decision that the UK Government takes on new licences, and that domestic energy security must also be a consideration. The question I'd ask Douglas Lumsden is, does he agree with his former leader, Theresa May, that the UK should be net zero by 2050? I think we all know the answer on that.
Question number 2, Carol Mockin.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government whether it will provide an update on the progress of the Ayrshire growth deal.
Minister Ivan McKee.
Significant effort has been made by partners across the Ayrshire growth deal to accelerate delivery of this important programme, which will see the Scottish Government invest over £100 million in Ayrshire. Construction is now underway on the £35 million Ayrshire Innovation Park, which will support the advanced manufacturing, engineering and food and drink sectors. Phase 1 of the £14 million Great Harbour project is nearing completion, and both the Scottish and UK Governments recently approved a request from partners to progress a new approach for the Prestwick proposition, paving the way for significant investment to support the Prestwick cluster.
Carol Mockin.
Thank you. Can I thank the Minister for that answer? Can the Government tell us why it's only 5% of the £251 million allocated to the project in 2020 that has been spent? We have also recently seen the cancellation of projects such as the Prestwick Spaceport. I wonder if the Minister has considered appointing an independent chair to push the project along.
Minister.
Well, of course, the whole point of the growth deal is that local partners have a key role in making decisions, and the government will of course continue to fund the projects, make the funds available, and will work with local partners to make sure that we can do all we can to ensure that projects are taken forward. But as I say, it's the whole point of the deal is that local input is hugely important, and the local partners have got a key role to play.
Brief supplementary, Ruth Maguire.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. This week I met with a community group with a particular interest in restoring the Pilot House. Whilst the Pilot House appeared in plans for the Great Harbour and Maritime Mile in Irvine, I understand an expected feasibility study on restoring it may now not be funded. Does the Minister, like me, recognise the potential of protecting unique heritage like the Pilot House? And further to that, where communities' expectations and aspirations are raised around growth deals, that it's crucial that those are met?
Minister.
I understand that the Great Harbour project, which has been led by North Ayrshire Council, intends to deliver improvements to both the setting and facade of the Pilot House as part of the wider project which aims to create a unique waterfront destination at Irvine. The specifics of the feasibility study support for Pilot House is not something the Scottish Government has been closely involved in, but I will instruct officials to speak with the Council directly to learn more about this issue and provide the member with a response by correspondence.
Thank you. Question number 3, Keith Brown.
To ask the Scottish Government whether it will provide an update on what action it is taking to safeguard the future of the Alloa campus of Forth Valley College.
Minister Ben McPherson.
The Cabinet Secretary for Education and Skills and I met the principal of Forth Valley College and the Scottish Funding Council last week to discuss progress, next steps and how the Scottish Government can help further to safeguard the future of the Alloa campus. I am assured that the Principal is committed to finding a solution, taking into account the needs of the community, local employers and the wider region. The SFC is supporting those efforts by providing additional funding to support an urgent feasibility study to identify all possible options for the campus, and we will ensure that all relevant public sector bodies play their part in that. I also plan to visit the Alloa campus very soon, and I will endeavour to keep Mr Brown updated.
Keith Brown.
Given the vital role that further education colleges such as Forth Valley College play in improving opportunities and life chances for people from our most deprived communities, and Clackmannanshire have some most deprived communities in Scotland, would the Scottish Government support the Scottish Funding Council placing requirements on colleges to ensure a minimum level of course provision in these areas, for example, by mandating that a set number of credits are delivered from campuses such as Alloa, and that similar safeguards are applied consistently across Scotland? And will he ask the Funding Council to meet with me so that I can make clear to them the extent to which we are having to deal with a college board which is determined to end further education provision in Scotland, and what can be done to stop them?
Minister.
I think Keith Brown raises some important points and has advocated for his constituents in Alloa so admirably in the recent weeks on these issues. I would be happy to impress upon the Funding Council to meet with Mr Brown. I would also be happy to meet with Mr Brown to explore the ideas that he has raised in the Chamber today. The Scottish Government absolutely recognises the vital role that our colleges play in their local communities, and we will sustain our investment in the sector and remain committed to giving young people and others who are retraining the opportunity to gain skills needed to succeed and help in our economy, and to help that grow and prosper, and to be able to do so in their locality.
Alec Crowley.
Presiding Officer, there's been a campus in the Alloa area since the 1960s. It would be a disaster if the Alloa campus closed. Does the Minister recognise the massive financial pressures that are on colleges, and will he do more to ensure the future of colleges in Clackmannanshire but across the whole of the country?
Minister. For raising those important points, and as I have articulated in the Chamber in recent weeks, I and the Scottish Government do recognise the challenge and challenges that our college sector face, and the various publications that have been put out in recent weeks regarding that. I would be keen to work with all members, including himself, across the Chamber on how we create a sustainable future for our colleges, given the important role that they play in communities, addressing poverty and in the future of our economy. And I've been most grateful for the excellent constructive engagement I've had so far with Colleges Scotland on how we support our college sector in the period ahead.
Question number 4, Sandesh Gulhani.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government what assessment it has made regarding the number of households whose council tax bills could rise as a result of the proposals in its consultation on the future of the council tax.
Minister Ivan McKee.
The consultation on the future of council tax does not set out a specific proposal for change, and these scenarios are not government policy. The consultation instead seeks views on a range of illustrative options aimed at building a consensus. Independent analysis by the Institute for Fiscal Studies, published alongside the consultation, provides a detailed assessment of those models. The IFS also modelled a number of transitional and mitigation schemes which would each impact on the overall assessment of the different models, and I would encourage the member to read the IFS report.
Sandish Gulhani.
Glaswegians with a Bandy property have seen their council tax increase 42% since the SNP came to power. 42%. This SNP government starves councils, leading to serious cuts in services and people paying more and getting less. These people are not rich and many struggle to get by. Take Morag in my constituency, who is a single widow pensioner living in her home for 50 years. She can't afford to pay more on her fixed pension income. Does the Minister think it is right to continue to hammer these people?
Minister.
Well, I don't know, but the member may have forgotten the many years of council tax freeze that were implemented by the Scottish Government, and council tax bills in Scotland. Council tax bills in Scotland are many hundreds of pounds cheaper than they are south of the border, where his party was in control for most of that period, significantly so in terms of the savings for Scottish council taxpayers. So I think the member should really reflect on that, and also reflect on the fact that his party are never shy to stand up and ask for more investment, but always do so at the same time as calling for tax cuts, which clearly demonstrates their fiscal inability to understand fiscal matters.
Question number 5, George Adam.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what action it is taking to ensure the sustainability of town centres.
Minister Ivan McKee.
We are committed, the Scottish Government, to supporting vibrant, thriving towns and town centres, putting them at the heart of investment and planning decisions through the Town Centre First principle and delivery of the Town Centre Action Plan. National Planning Framework 4 further embeds this approach by recognising town centres as national assets. Over recent years, support for town centre regeneration has been backed by our Regeneration Capital Investment programmes, as well as our support for Scotland's Towns Partnership and the Scotland Loves Local programme. And this is continuing in 25-26 with regeneration investment of over £62 million, which includes support for town centres. I was delighted to speak last night at the cross-party group on towns and town centres, and recognising great work happening across the country, including, of course, Paisley, which has been recognised as Scotland's Town of the Year.
George Adam.
I thank the Minister for his answer, and I wasn't going to mention that because I mentioned it last week, but the Minister will be aware of the major regeneration work that is currently underway in Paisley Town Centre, including plans to explore future use for the Paisley Centre site. This week, Renfrewshire Council confirmed it will work with the developer to move this important project forward. Can the Minister commit to engaging with Renfrewshire Council once their proposals are ready to help ensure the best possible outcome for Paisley?
Minister.
We're always keen to ensure the best possible outcome for Paisley and indeed towns across Scotland. I'm aware of the plans that have been put forward by the owners of the Paisley Centre, and the Scottish Government remains in close contact with both the local council and the developer Beyond Retail on these ambitious plans. I understand discussions are ongoing between the developer and Renfrewshire Council to understand the feasibility and viability of the project and to seek assurance over the proposed development plans. And as you will be aware, any decision rests with Renfrewshire Council in the first instance, but the Scottish Government will closely follow this project as it moves forward.
Thank you. Question number 6, Douglas Lumsden.
Whether it plans to increase the current threshold of 50 megawatts for approval by its Energy Consents Unit of onshore electricity generating stations to allow more decisions to be taken by local planning authorities.
Cabinet Secretary Gillian Martin.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The Scottish Government will consult on increasing the current threshold of 50 megawatts for applications for onshore electricity generating stations to be considered by local authorities. In addition to this, we will also consult on our new regulatory powers over the Electricity Act applications through the UK Government's Planning and Infrastructure Bill. These new powers will enable changes to be made to address many of the concerns raised by local communities, provide earlier, more structured engagement opportunities and better alignment with local planning procedures.
Douglas Lumsden.
Presiding Officer, decisions like the 500-megawatt battery storage plant at Rothay-Norman should be taken by local planning authorities. So before the Cabinet Secretary jets off on her latest taxpayer-funded jaunt to sell Scotland's countryside to the highest bidder, will she explain Will she explain to constituents in Aberdeenshire East why local democracy is being ignored and energy projects are being decided by Central Belt eco-zealot bureaucrats who are not answerable to local residents?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, what to say to that? Energy decisions around consents are made by local authorities under a threshold, and they're made by the Scottish Government over a threshold. There are regulations that are put in place to determine the processes that are undertaken. Those are regulated by the UK Government. I was about to say I look forward to reading Douglas Lumsden's submission to the consultation, but after that diatribe, I don't know if I am.
Let's not be shouting at one another. Question number 7, Neil Bibby.
To ask the Scottish Government what assessment it has made of school swimming provision, including the number of children who leave primary school unable to swim.
Minister Natalie Dawn-Innes.
The Scottish Government believes that every child should be given the opportunity to learn to swim. It is a life skill that can save lives. There is currently no requirement to report a child's swimming ability, either locally or nationally, but Scottish Swimming estimate that 25 to 30% of children leave primary school unable to swim. School swimming reduces poverty-related barriers for children and has a significant role to play in addressing inequalities. So we are continuing to work with key stakeholders to ensure all children have the opportunity to become confident, safer and competent swimmers.
Neil Bibby.
I thank the Minister for that answer. Research from Scottish Swimming has found that only 16% of community swimming lesson participants come from the 20% most deprived areas in Scotland, and the cost of lessons has more than doubled since 2018. Cost or access should not be a barrier to a life-saving skill, yet thousands of children are missing out on crucial water safety skills. Last year there were 33 accidental drownings in Scotland. As well as the tragic loss of life, one drowning is estimated by the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents to cost £1.7 million. It is estimated that investing in school swimming would cost only £6 million. Can I ask the Scottish Government when it will take this matter seriously and make the National Primary School Swimming Framework a priority to ensure that every child in Scotland gets access to this life-saving skill?
Minister.
Well, Mr Bibby picks a couple of points there. So, in relation to water safety, the Scottish Government continues to fund ROSPA to provide operational support to Water Safety Scotland to lead a coordinated and preventative approach to water safety. In relation to the school swimming framework, the Cabinet Secretary for Health and Social Care and Ms Todd have met with Scottish Swimming to discuss the framework. It still remains an ambition to double the sports budget before the end of this Parliament, and should this be delivered, we would envisage the Scottish Government supporting the implementation of the school swimming framework nationwide, because we understand how important it is for children to have these opportunities in both an aspect of safety and also for future life opportunities.
A brief question number 8, Fulton McGregor.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what discussions it has had with North Lanarkshire Council regarding the reported coal spoil fire in Shawhead Coatbridge, and any assurances that can be given to the public.
Cabinet Secretary.
My officials have been in touch with the North Lanarkshire Council and have been updated on the progress which has been made towards safely resolving the underground smouldering at the site in Coatbridge. Work has been led by specialist environmental engineers in close coordination with the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. Air quality monitoring is carried out daily. Latest monitoring results show air quality levels will remain well within safe limits. An independent analysis confirms no exceedances of health-based thresholds. Residents in the immediate area have received regular updates via letter, the Council website and social media.
Fulton McGregor.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that response. I'd also like to thank and highlight the work of North Lanarkshire Council in this fairly unusual and rare situation. They have been very proactive, and indeed I have an update meeting next week with the Chief Officer responsible and the local ward councillors. Given that the situation isn't common, the most pressing concern for people in the area is whether the emissions they are experiencing are safe. Can the Scottish Government provide any further assurances that the treatment of such coal spoil fires do not impact on the health of residents? And does the Cabinet Secretary believe there is scope for public education here to prevent such fires occurring again in the future?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, as I said in my first answer, they're doing everything to suppress the smoke. Additional sand continues to be used effectively to suppress smoke and smouldering. Thermal imaging and temperature mapping confirms that the smouldering remains contained. And contractors and geotechnical specialists remain on site daily, with regular meetings taking place between Scottish Fire and Rescue Service as part of the process.
Thank you. That concludes general questions. I now invite members to join me in welcoming to the gallery Kenneth G. Fosland, First Deputy Speaker of the Swedish Parliament, and Julia Cronlid, Second Deputy Speaker of the Swedish Parliament.